So, really interesting article. Common menace to drivers in general is cyclists, but can you imagine drunken cyclists? I think you've got to be quite a brave person to get on a bike while tanked, but apparently, yes, this still seems to be a problem for those. Perhaps they've missed the last bus, they can't get a taxi at that particular time, maybe it's too far to walk. So after a few too many jars, they think it's a good idea to jump on a bicycle. And this can cause all kinds of accidents and problems, and probably rightly so. If you do get caught doing this, you will be punished by the authorities. But of course, I'm sure many people get away with this without being spotted.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said before, it might be a menace and you might have to be brave to jump on a bike. But when you're impaired, you don't need bravery. You have liquid courage.
Yes.
The liquid courage of alcohol. And I think that has something to contribute with it. Because you might have a single mind, right? You might think, I'm drunk, I need to get home, I can't drive. Bike.
Yeah.
Buses aren't running or subways aren't running, whatever. And so, yeah, I think this type of situation is quite common. And it's probably, like you said, a lot of people do this without us knowing.
And the potential for disaster is horrific. Maybe you won't just slam into the pavement and kill yourself. Maybe you will slam into a car or another human being or, the things that could go wrong.
Do you guys think that this is a bike-friendly city, that Seoul is good for cyclists? Actually, where I lived was extremely bike-friendly to the point where drivers got annoyed.
Really?
Because it was like bikes were the ones that ruled the road rather than cars. I'm on the side of cars. I think roads are meant for cars, and there can be bike lanes that are positioned to be bike roads. However, two conditions. Number one, stay in the bike lane. If there's no bike lane, don't get in front of cars. That's a recipe for disaster. Secondly, motorcycles already have a harder issue and they have a lot of noise and they're bigger. Secondly, follow the rules. If you are on a bike and you think that just because you're on a bike you get to run a red light, then maybe you shouldn't be allowed to ride a bike anymore. There might have to be biking licenses in the future. So Seoul as a bike-friendly city, coming from where I came from, it seems very hostile. But compared to where it was before, it is getting better, I've heard. Yeah.
I suppose you're right, yeah. When I visited my hometown recently, my father was complaining because we were stuck behind two cyclists riding like two abreast, not one behind the other, and just chatting and not paying attention to this car going really slowly behind them. And I thought,
And being British, you didn't use the horn, did you?
Obviously not, no. Just grumbled and swore under our breath.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I would have been blaring that horn so quickly. You'd always do the friendly tap, like the beep beep, I'm behind you. And if they got a little angry about it, there might be a bit longer of a beep, as long as possible until they get out of the way. Yeah, I was not a friendly driver when I was younger. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have the patience either.
But never drove drunk. Or on a bike either. Did you ever know that this was actually illegal?
I have to admit, I didn't know that.
Okay, yeah.
I just assumed it was just idiotic. But it does kind of make sense that it's illegal.
I have to admit it makes sense. It's like, well, then how else are you supposed to get home if there's no transportation and how else are you supposed to get back? But, if you're going to go be a reveler somewhere, you have to plan your way back.
Yeah, I do feel like you've got to take responsibility for yourself. And if you got to walk, you got to walk.
Yeah.
Or don't they have those wonderful pick-me-up type services where a
these
guy
days
on a
it's
bike
better.
or a guy in a car will come?
Yeah, these days it's better, but back in my day, it was basically nothing or call a friend or have a DD, designated driver. But that was basically it.
Let's take a look at the vocabulary in a little more detail.
Slam.
Slam.
Impaired.
Impaired.
Tanked.
Tanked.
menace,
menace,
reveler,
reveler,